so here we are in Clash of Sovereigns. Very quickly, what's happened so far? Hard to remember because I'm so busy struggling with the rules and with the cards. CDGs are not the best at giving you a good narrative, especially a game like this that requires that you be paying a lot of attention to a lot of the cards, even if you can get over all the other issues that are in the way. Okay, so broadly and briefly, Prussia entered, moving into Silesia. The French did not support them right away because of me not being able to read a card properly. And that led an Austrian concentration of force to drive back against them. A bunch of diplomacy going on. Saxony entered the war, left the war, has re-entered the war. And, you know, they were going to try to protect Frederick, but they didn't end up doing so. And right now what we've got is Frederick with a large army facing Chucky Charles here with an even larger army, but he probably can't stand up to Frederick. But Belle-Ile got replaced by Broglie, and Broglie is down here kind of handcuffing Austrian troops, cut them off from supply by getting Passau. I thought I had enough to crown Emperor Charles VII, different Charles, but I don't. I have to deal with Hanover first. Lots of red text on a card, and the red text is problematic for me. The Spaniards have entered into Naples and are ready to make a push north. The Brits have entered the war. They were going to get smacked around otherwise, and have built an Anglo-Dutch army to go march and defend Hanover. Not a hell of a lot else. I feel like I've been through a lot of emotional and psychological distress in playing this game for what little narrative I can come up with out of it, right? Compare this to like Campaigns of Marlborough, which is just an absolute piece of shit game in terms of, like, you know, the rules are worse than they are here. But because it's a traditional style of game, it's less painful. You can see right away where the rules are bad. You also know you're not going to get updates to the rules, right? And yeah, I mean, very quickly I was able to come up with something very workable that gave a great narrative of the battlefield situation. A lot less on the political and everything. I have to say, you know, I love my event-driven games. I just think the cards are not the best way to deliver them, just because of the amount of effort that's involved in them. I'd rather have them come from random events. Some of them, though, make sense, you know? Like Clash of Monarchs, Bob Kalikowski has done a decent job of trying to limit the things that you have cards for and the things that you wouldn't have any control over. Offloading the really random stuff largely into the Fog of War counter, and the remaining one is going to be a random event, I believe, because we had the attrition already. The problem with that is you kind of know when these things are going to happen. I think I liked the Clash of Monarchs solution for the random events table better than I like this one, but he's done the same kind of thing, where he's pulled the most egregious events, things like an earthquake, that you absolutely should not control as a player, right? On the other hand, should you as a player know that there's going to be an earthquake in that year? Yeah, I don't know. Knowing that it's possible is bad enough, right? All right, so here we are. It's, well, I don't know, fairly Sunday night, not near midnight yet, around 9 or 10, I think. And yes, this game is definitely dissuading me from coming down and playing things, right? But on top of that, I had a lot of raid to do, and But I've got to say, yesterday and most of today, I just, during daytime, I just say, fuck it, I'm just going to sleep, Some of it that maybe I should be doing something outside. And this that's a good, like, substitute of, oh, you've got some kind of duty to do something here. It's like, okay, well, I'll come down and fucking play this. Normally it's a little lighter for me. Here, yeah. But there's personal shit in the way too. All right, so where are we? Okay, we're on the fall campaign season. This is going to be the cards for all the belligerents. Everybody is a belligerent at this point. So I basically have to plan out my, say, Prussian turn as to what card I'm going to play and whatnot, and whether or not I want to spend on supplies. Okay. Well, I will reload my pipe because this thing went out. It wasn't as good as I hoped it would be. And take a look at the Prussians and figure out what I'm going to do. Funny because, I've only been awake like 5 hours, right? Maybe 6 now. And I'm tired enough. I could just go back to sleep. I feel like I really have to get to this. Anyway. Just delaying more. Again, I have to work my way through the unfamiliar combat system, right? I like the system, it's unfamiliar to me. Because Frederick is coming in, I don't have any need for depots, I guess. I don't know. And I had to play one of these Pillage the Enemy. I really like these cards. I hate the idea of spending them. But I have to do something about this, I think. Going for Prague against a better leader, or a good leader, it feels like I have an advantage over Charles, and his numbers may not help him that much. I don't know. He's at 18, 22. Yeah, he's still under 30, so the numbers, he has a little bit of an edge, but not that much. I'm looking at the Austrian cards, and I was looking for a battle card, and I find this Croats, Hussars, and Hostility, which I could have played. It would increase an enemy force's short supply by 1, and then place CH markers from the box or the AU force on spaces within 2 AP of the enemy force and attempt CH raids with them. Here's the problem. I don't get that much. I get the short supply marker. I don't think that does anything to me, particularly. He would not have just re-entered supply. He'd have to leave supply to get rid of that short supply marker by re-establishing it, I think. I'm not sure what the rules on the supply rules are so funky in this. They're kind of weird. But I don't see much advantage to it at this point. So no battle card for that. The Day of Battle card is kind of impressive. It's maneuver at a subordinate leader's DRM. I don't know when I pick which side I'm on. That's not in this major battle procedure. So I had the better leader. I get to choose the better initiative. So I get to choose whether or not I want to be the attacker or defender. Well, certainly after this card, I want to be the defender, because I know Troun's in his hand. And honestly, knowing Troun's there means that I want to be the defender anyway, and I probably would have chosen that anyhow. But there's no place in the sequence where you make that choice. Normally, I don't know when it actually says you make it. Fuck. I'm not sure. I'm looking for it in here. I would expect it to be in this sequence because it is an important aspect of the scenario. And I don't remember where it tells me that. Maybe it's here. No. Somewhere it tells me that I get to choose. Maybe here. Commander ratings. No. Yeah, I just don't know. Like, okay, if a player does a, yeah. So it looks like it would have happened relatively early, but it's kind of weird. It's like, it's very loosely stated and not placed anywhere in here. So I don't know. The big question is, does it happen before or after this card is drawn? There is no answer to that. There really is none. Whatever, as long as you're consistent, but, you know, whatever. That means there'll be no cards. I think that means I'm going to be a +1 for ABR. Now I look through this list, which isn't that big, and I don't think there's anything in play. Cav superiority is possible. So he has a lot of cav. He has twice as much cav. So he's able to get that above. Now that's just a die roll modifier, right? No. That's just a cumulative die roll modifier up here. So we're looking at the Prussians have a +1 from ABR. The Austrians have a +1 from their battle rating, or from their cav, and they're the same size force. I might as well roll since that's the only excitement there is. We're both in the 1 to 30 SP, and we get, it's going to be 10% for each, which means it's either a draw or, so we're close to 30 here, 10, 22, 26, 27, and here we're at 15, 21, 22, 23, which means the Prussians are going to take 2 hits and they're going to lose the battle and have to fall back. I lied there. They're going to have to take 3 hits. The Austrians take 2. 10% of 23. You know, I generally like this kind of combat table, but it feels like the results are too baked in. Like, there's not a lot of variance in them. I want there to be a little bit more variance. Maybe a D10 would have helped a little bit. Maybe a less flat combat table. I'm just finding myself, oh yeah, I got the bonus leader, but it doesn't help me, you know. Now in this case, they were essentially equal, but yeah. All right. So I spend my points after the attack recovering. I move to Breslau, take that. I move back down here to Schweidnitz. I got lucky. I took Breslau in 1 die roll. Great. And then I used my extra command point to do administrative march. I got to remember about that. So I look at, you know, here's the problem. I look at the, I don't remember where the fuck it was. Yeah, I went to look at 8.8. I look at the strategy card list and it tells me what I can do with my points, one of which is campaign points. I got to look down at campaign points, see the list of things that I could do, which is make admin marches, CH raids for units of that power or its allies, in addition to activating a command. I don't know if I've been neglecting that. I know I've had extra points at times and wanted to use them. In this case, I'm actually using it, which pretty much impresses me. I moved a piece. That's pretty exciting. Do I have the energy left to take the Austrian turn? The turns aren't that hard. Oh, I gotta go. I would have gotten a free rally. So I actually didn't have to do the rally. but I could have been intercepted, so it would have been dangerous. And now I'm in supply state. So I go back there. Like, there's just a part of me that's just like, fucking go away now, go away. You've done enough, you moved a piece. It really feels the same as Vietnam did to me, the same as kind of Summerstorm does. Whenever I'm hitting these games where the turns are requiring too much. Now, this shouldn't, but it feels like that way, right? Some of it's because I have to look up a fair amount of stuff each time I move a piece. All right, we'll try to move the Austrians, then maybe take a break, because the French, the Austrians have their interrupt card again. The Austrians, I have to worry about the supply rolls because I have a unit in short supply here. Now, how do I remove that? I think I can remove it. No, it can trace supply in a friendly initial or final supply segment. So if I place a depot, right now I'm out of supply. If I place a depot and then move it, see the order for this, initial supply segment by depots, I can just throw one on the board. But I can't move it. But where can I place a depot? Oh, here we go. Any non-enemy occupied space that can trace a supply line of 2 SP or more. So I could drop a depot into one of these two spaces because they're not enemy occupied. And then I would be in supply, and I would have created supply for myself in the initial supply segment. This would go away for free. Unlike, there's another way where I can, like, what? Enter a space containing a friendly fortress or depot and basically eat the depot while you're moving. That seems like the less likely thing to happen. So I definitely kind of want to do that, but now I have to figure out my turn in advance based on that, which I don't really mind. But yeah, this I will be able to get rid of, and then I have to kind of decide, hey, how close, if I'm next to the French, I have a card which allows me to fuck with them. Oh, of course, I had to look up more rules, and we're still partway in. I'm going to play this card. It's only a 1-point card to do an admin march with this now in supply force. And I was going to move it down to Salzburg and Linz to help cover Vienna. I can fall back, maybe, I don't know, do what I can. But I wanted to see, hey, can I leave these guys behind? Well, if I just leave them there, they can be overrun and destroyed. They're not going to do much. They're not going to help with supply. They're not going to cause any supply disruption. If I could have them here, they would. But more than that, I went over to look to see, so they're able to raid for free. If CH or Guerrilla Marker is placed or moves into an unoccupied space or one occupied only by enemy depots, the owner can choose to flip it. Oh, I think I could do that. Yeah, actually, if I move up this way, instead, I can drop a short supply on him and cause him lots of trouble. So, because I'm moving in with these, so I move in here, I do this instead. Let me check what I blew here. Place or increase short supply by 1, then place CH from the box. Or that AU force on spaces within 2 AP. I don't have 2 or more with an Austrian force here. Place or increase the enemy force's short supply. Okay. So I don't have to actually attempt a raid. And what is the effect of the raid? I don't know. Successful raid size. It cannot be moved. Enemies have to pay extra to move in there. They aid in Austrian withdrawals. They block enemy supply paths no matter how many enemy SP enter or remain in the space, and they can't be overrun. So this has hit this space, essentially. And now I move into here. But before I do that, I can make an interception attempt with Broglie. That -1 movement point I don't think impacts my chance. So I'm taking some risk by moving next to him, but that would have been the case going this way as well. I do not get him, and that means I can make it back to this depot. That uses up my Austrian turn. Now I'm going to be on the French turn, and yeah, I'm pooped out already. No question. You know, I would have loved to roll the siege, whatever, but I feel like I have to get my Kleinen Mueller or whatever moving and out of the way and get myself in a position where if he tries to activate the French, I can do my interrupt on him, which I will put face up again to remind me. It's this hesitation card. That's so funny because, like, the cards are, and this was the case in Clash of Monarchs as well, the cards are used very differently than you're used to in a CDG. I like how they're being used in a lot of ways. I like this whole, like, I have, you know, I'm not using the cards just for their points. Their points might be important. It's not just that simple points versus activation choice. It's like points versus activation versus like discarding them for value in a way that is reminiscent of other games prior to the CDG games. But that whole that a card is just worth something in and of itself. It doesn't matter how many points it has. It doesn't matter what the event is on it. It has some value to you that may be, you know, those values as a discard may be greater to you than the values that you would be using the card for. And you really have to kind of evaluate the cards a lot more, though, than I think you do in most CDGs. It makes it a tougher game. There's no question about that. And that's part of what I'm struggling with here. Funny, I can like it as an idea, but hate it because I'm not used to it right now, right? Okay, so it's a couple hours later. I tried to nap a little bit. That didn't work. Now I'm going to try coffee. That should put me to sleep. So this has just happened. I forgot to handle something. This causes the French supply state to worsen. It doesn't cause anything but the marker to be placed. And as you saw in the initial supply phase, I can fix that pretty easily. I can just move this supply marker around and get myself back in supply. But I can also, I think, just move into supply up here and that'll fix it. No, that's the first one. Can trace supply in a friendly initial. Yeah, so that's harder because I need to establish my supply before I take whatever actions I'm going to take. And one of the things I wanted to point out here as I look at this, because the French are in a position where they have a bunch of cards, none of which allow me to move both of these forces, except for one. I have a major campaign which I can expend permanently and get rid of. How important Belle-Ile is, well, it's associated with what the deck of cards is like, right? Each country has its own deck of cards with its own kind of points and everything that are tailored for their leaders and whatnot. And the way these are, I can move one force with most of my cards, or I can move two forces if Belle-Ile was around, or three in the case of, well, no, two, but I could move two in the case of that major campaign if I want to blow that. I need to do something about this supply, except that I'm not out of supply. I own Passau. Fuck you. So placing this did absolutely nothing. Oh. I guess it's fine that it's there. It's going to get removed now, but eventually just put back here, which is okay. Because I can spend activations, but it means I lose the CH. But I'm dragging these CHs around and they're not doing me shit. Okay, so actually this becomes a lot less important to me. I think I'm going to focus on Hanover, and I'll try to choose a card. One of these 3-point cards, I guess. I want to point this out because I was looking for something else. I'm considering doing an administrative march with the Spaniards with the extra point, because they're the only other power I can move with the French. Even though they're controlled by this. But if I give them an administrative march, they can move through much of Italy, and I wanted to see the rules on doing so, because Naples is at this point, I'm allied with Naples, but I'm never able to do anything with most of the Italian spaces, so I'm kind of trying to see this. Everything except Genoa I can enter. I can't take fortresses, but that's okay. But I may need to do something with my supplies. So, like, I picked my card, and now I have to think about how I want to operate. Okay, so within that, I ran across, and I think I mentioned this before, French forces may not enter any Italy theater space until the play of the Prince of Conti event. I think that's an error. I don't believe it's been called out anywhere. Again, this is the revised rules. There's a whole, you know, there's 8 pages to it, but I think only 4 of them are really errata. And I don't think that this is caught in there. But French forces may not enter any Italy theater space until the play of the Prince of Conti event, which I would take as controlling things, except there's this card, Fleury's Intransigence. French forces may not enter Italian theater until play of French Prince of Conti event. Place the no French in Italy marker. You know, either the card is misprinted and needs to be revised, or this rule is incorrect. Now, I think the rule is incorrect because of the card being in the game. So I'll write in. So good that I can use pencil on it. I'm glad I'm not the only person who complains about this. Somebody else was complaining about way back when they first got the game, before the replacement thing was issued, and before anybody knew that it was going to be. And maybe they're influenced by me, I don't know, but somebody else mentioned, great, I've got a glossy rulebook I can't mark up, so even if you put, you know, but the amount that changed between the 2 rulebooks is fairly significant. Enough to warrant the reprint? I don't know. But the level of correctness of the eventual game is not enough to warrant the reprinting of the rules and the cards and all that. But again, I think that there's just been kind of a let me wash my hands of this idea, both when the game went to press and when the replacement packet went out. It's as if there was no attempt in either case for there to be anything like a good playtesting and a good blind testing before releasing the product. And I think GMT really ought to insist on independent blind testing before they put their money up. You know, they can commit, they can P500, they can, you know, give advances, whatever they have to do, however I don't think there are advances, but whatever they have to do in their publishing industry interests, but they shouldn't roll out something that's going to force them to have to do a massive reprint like this. They just shouldn't, you know, and If they have to produce a few less games, would that cost them more? I don't know. In this case, they failed to be able to make it good, But if it had to wait 4 years to be made good, that would be not cool too, right? Like, there's nothing you can do about what this situation was once you commit to, let's print it and send it out no matter what, They at some point or another, you just cut your losses and you say, look, this is not working. You're not putting the work in. You've run through 4 developers, and now, I mean, if you do run through a developer, right? If a developer leaves the game because there's just too much going on, whatever, any reason, you ought to make damn sure to put in somebody who's even stronger opinions in terms of protecting the company and the customers. Been the first point on an admin march. I dropped depot here. Obviously, this one couldn't start there. This one started here, and I moved it. This one, I don't know. He could have started anywhere, but he can't be that far. Shit. I can supply off a port. Yeah, that's a port. Doesn't have to be controlled, right? Oh, God. I'm having to look so much fucking shit up. It's just... To friendly port spaces. This is not friendly. Okay, well, we won't place this one then, because we have to get to the port. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We can... No, that's not a port. This is a port. We can trace to Venice. I guess that's friendly. See, this is weird. Nothing here is friendly, right? Except Naples. But once I'm there, it's friendly. Now, I can't walk through this, right? Because admin march. Okay, let's look up admin march. Oh, no, I can. Yeah, let's just go here. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can't go into Genoa, but I can march through these. And now I'm in a friendly port space because I'm there, I guess. Because otherwise, I don't think these will ever be friendly. Therefore, do they have any purpose? I don't know. I think if I garrison it, it becomes friendly. But again, okay. And Broglie is not Broglie. Malboy is going to march up and attack Hanover from this direction. And I think we're playing right, but I can't even fucking tell you. Yes, I spent some time away. But that doesn't seem to make a difference. I had to look everything up anyway. I thought it was the Austrians who were going to be dicks, but no, it's the English. When this is declared to be activated, after this depot's in place, we play Fleury's Obstruction. This is playable when neutral. It doesn't say play only once. I tend to check these just to make sure. That's card 15, I think. I can't really read. So yeah, so I prevent the French activation entirely. Wouldn't matter if I did the administrative movement first or second. I did it first because I would only have 1 point left. So I've just killed a 2-point activation off that card. That's a potent thing. And now in the final supply, oh, what the fuck was I doing? I can't be here. This would have had to be here anyway. In order to be in supply, I have to be able to trace back to the depot. This would work. This would not have, so I wouldn't have placed it there. The English are still playing their card because they still want, not the Austrians, they want the Dutch to join them. in Hanover. Ugh. And that gets me through into the English. And I feel like I'm stumbling so much between managing cards. I can handle managing cards in a very simple game. But you start making the game more complicated and the cards, like, cards add a huge burden. And it's not just for solo play. Like, playing a game where, you know, you're trying to manipulate these card decisions and whatnot, that's a relatively heavy burden in and of itself. And then when the rules are this full of special cases and pieces of information, all of which has to be looked up too, it's just too big a burden for me, at least at this point in my life. All right, well, we'll switch batteries and we'll go to the British activation. But I think we didn't cheat. This card, it's a hard choice. All the cards, all the English cards are like great events that I want to play. I'm not going to get to play them all in the course of the turn. And they're all you know, the points, a lot of them are the amount of points that I want to play. That felt like a safe one because I haven't seen an earthquake, and I don't want to be able to foretell the future and know when the earthquake's coming. I kind of feel like I should, because the card is dependent on an event that's dependent. Like, there's a problem with that card. That card is dependent on a physical event that has to happen. It's like Fleury dying. Look, I know Fleury's old. Okay, I can pretend that I know when he's going to die. Let's take a look. The Naples earthquake is automatic this turn. Oh, Fleury doesn't automatically die. He could die this turn or next turn. So, you know, the earthquake is going to happen. That card is going to be of value, but... And it might be useful because it would throw the Neapolitans back to Naples and for a significant amount of time. Now, is Piedmont in the war? Piedmont is in the war. I didn't realize that. Well, maybe we should be doing something about the Spaniards advancing on us. Huh? Here also, an interesting factor. Even though Georgie is here with the Hanoverian army, Lord Stair is actually got to be in charge. He's my, you know, commanding general or whatever. Now, I would like to, at the beginning of the next term, bring Cumberland in his place, whatever. I think I'm allowed to do that because I'm a belligerent now. But, yeah. I would have had to do something funky. It happens over in the redeployment phase where I could change the commanders. So I've got a lousy commander there, but it's okay because we're done with all the activations for this campaign season, and we go to the event card period, which is just peachy because, you know, I'm not counting on a winter campaign. There might be one. And notice the absolute mess of the number of little pieces because of all the different nationalities in the British forces. I don't know if that's that necessary. If it's that necessary to have Hessians, Hanoverians, Danes, I think that's it, and regular Brits. If you think about War and Peace, I think they accumulated, not the Danes, but the Hessians and Hanoverians and anything else into the King's German Legion. And just said, look, you know, these aren't Brits. They're treated differently. Given that these things all showed up in Hanover, but who knows? You know, there may be cards that affect each one separately. But honestly, you could just make them Germans and they would probably be okay. You know, they probably all operate more or less the same. Like if the Danes leave the war, you remove X number of, you know, allied forces. so that you don't have this kind of mess. And you've got the Dutch, too, in there, who I think probably need their own rules. I missed something important when they designed this played events checklist. I just played this Treaty of Breslau. Some of them, sure, it's good enough. Defensive Pact, one-time event, it served its purpose here as soon as I noticed to write it down. But Treaty of Breslau, also a one-time event. Austrians lose a point of monarchical will. Okay. But it has an effect which isn't expressed on here. Those counters that come with most CDGs that tell you France and Prussia are allied and may combine forces when both are belligerent. You don't have to memorize. I'm trying to see. Oh, shit, I got like France and Prussia mixed up in their decks. You don't have to memorize the effects of all these cards, right? They usually give you a hint on the counter of what they do, and then, very importantly, anything with a counter is actually referenced in the rules. There is no such thing here. You go to Treaty of Breslau in here, if it exists, which it need not. What will we have? Frederick's success in seizing Silesia upped Prussia's reputation in the eyes of the French, who at that point were scheming to make aggressive moves of their own. Frederick was trying to play off between Britain and France, doing it to his best advantage, but upon learning the British-led Dresden Conference with Austria and other minor powers, he surmised the British would end up in an alliance against him. He quickly concluded a secret treaty with France. It doesn't tell you what it does. Sure, there's a secret treaty. What's up with that? You know? And this one is not as bad as some. Like Defensive Pact. Okay, why is this one even in here? Because it doesn't have any rules. It wouldn't need a counter. It would generally be a remove the card so that you don't play it again. This game is using, instead of counters, it's using this list to say you can't play that card for the same event again, which is a different flavor from most CDGs. And it's a choice that I stand by and think is fine in and of itself, but you need to give something else. Here, it's Frederick managed to secure a defensive pact with Russia, likely in part due to his early success against Austria. Does not matter. Absolutely irrelevant to the game, and the notes are, as they put it, selected event card backgrounds and comments. Nothing about the play. What do they tell you? More commentary, and they give you a book to go look at. Yeah, that book's not going to tell you the rules to the game either. What's missing here is the necessary information that those counters provide in CDGs so that you don't have to leave the card sitting around. All right? I understand. This game has an additional function, which is you can't play that card for the same effect again once it's marked off and written down. But the impact of the card needs to be written down because I can't always guarantee that's going to be sitting in my hand, and no other player in the game is going to have access to whether or not I have, whether or not that card, what the text is on that card. There's just like a fundamental misunderstanding of how cards work in play, as if that was completely ignored when they put together the final package. They may have had something else at playtest time. Maybe there's a card manifest in the Vassal module. Maybe the Vassal module is the only way you can play this game. Okay, the Austrians are going to play this Insurrection one-time event. Wrote it down. +1 Austrian monarch will. I place 1 CH marker with any Austrian force. Well, kind of fucked up by putting that there. So I'll give them another. But now some weird shit happens. Put 3 markers in Vienna and place leaders Kevin Heuler and Birkenlau in and or transfer to Vienna. Why would I be placing them? What would give me capability, and there I'm kind of fucked. What would give me the capability to place them rather than move them or transfer them? I don't like this. I don't want that part of the effect, but I gotta do the whole thing, and I'm like, well, I get nothing otherwise. That will not be my winter campaign. But yeah. I have one good card to play, the Spanish Cartagena, which is number 6 here, under France. There is no Spain. Oh wait, there is a Spain. Oh, this is really interesting. Cartagena is a French card, even though it's yellow colored here, and there are Spanish cards. Holy shit. Now I'm questioning, are these others like Spain X? So this is like French 7. Which is the one? I'm looking, I played one of these. New leaders, new armies, new fronts. That's not it. I played this one. This one, which says F21 for French 21, is actually Spain 22, so they got the number wrong and... Oh, good God. Oh, I have no idea. It just, you know, the amount of errors just compounds and compounds as you go. What the fuck is this? Why am I holding this? Assuming it's a French card that got discarded. I don't know. I don't think I had it in my hand. Yeah, so I'm going to play Cartagena. That gives Spain a victory point. That's going to be a total point and an event point. And it gives Britain -1 event victory point. And -1 total. And we hope things are right here. Like, I've got a +1 Austria here, but they're way down. I don't know. Like, maintaining the game state on that, in addition to everything else, right? Like, I have this horrible victory point track thing, and I've got the army sizes to deal with and everything. There's all kinds of cumbersome mechanisms that I have to be paying attention to relating directly to game state. And there's so much to keep track of outside of that. Let's see what the Brits choose. Realized I had the, I don't know. No, I had the flurries and transients. That's what protected me. Yeah, I had to move the Anglo-Dutch force here. And that makes this, some additional Dutch reinforcements, really kind of questionable. So I think I'm going to go with one of these negotiations and try to bring the Russians in. These are not marked, so British diplomacy seems to be kind of free. Like, the Prussian diplomacy with the Russians, that's not going to move them all the way over. You don't have a capability to do a big diplomatic offensive by just continually playing those cards and trying to negate the effect of the Allied diplomacy or the pragmatic diplomacy. So, yeah, so I'll go with the Russians because I have Piedmont already on my side. And I think these stay here. I don't think they, you know, jump all the way back. So I get the Russians to move towards me, which is cool. That's the end of the event phase, which means we get the Fortunes of Power, or is that what it says? Fortunes of Power. Okay. And we looked this up. And what do we know? Well, we know that the Naples earthquake just happened. Allow subsequent play of Martin's ultimatum. Permanently remove AU leader Nightperg. Oh, well that sucks. Or maybe not. Okay. Oh, I'll just put him in here rather than bag him. Okay. I guess he was visiting Naples, even though he wasn't there. And then on a 1 in 6, Fleury dies. Next year he will die when this counter comes up. Okay. Now there's no way to mark these down. Obviously you could make a photocopy or you could just write them down, you know, over on notes or something like that. But there's nothing provided to help you remember what has happened. I don't really need to remember Naples earthquake happening. And now we hit the end phase. Advanced season, remove all CH not stacked with AU. And remove all gorillas. Okay, so this comes off. It doesn't go away into the box. It goes into the counter tray or whatever. Goes into there. And we slide into the early winter. And at this point, we break because we done played enough. I'm going to try to finish up the year. It's only this early winter. I am expecting a campaign. I think the Prussians have, or no, the Austrians have a winter campaign. But actually, I think it's a late winter campaign, so we'll see. Back down for the early winter. Now, I went, while I was watching videos, playing some Raid in the background, whatever, I went up and I checked my Clash of Monarchs rules. I actually have the game out just so that I can look at some things. I noticed one huge difference. This has sort of a double tempo to it in terms of cards. The campaign segment, you play a campaign card to do an activation, then you get an event card play. And that's kind of nifty, right? There's something I really like about the addition that this game has brought in terms of that, which is that, okay, we can put this in two different contexts. There's something I really like about it, which is that it clearly does divide what the player is choosing. You know, it means that the player doesn't have to make a choice between, say, bringing reinforcements in and conducting a campaign. Sure, maybe they want to do 2 event cards in a season, and then it does force them into that choice, but they always kind of have, I think, a fair chance to utilize their troops on the board. Here's what I don't like about it. Clash of Monarchs mostly put events into the tables. Like the things, you know, where it's like, say, a commander gets replaced or something. I don't remember the game having opposing players being able to do nasty shit to you like that, like the replacing Belial and stuff like that. There might have been some smaller things, but for the most part, most of the big events and everything were random rolls on a table that just happened, which I actually think is a better model overall. But I can see the gameplay advantage to you know, giving the players more control. Maybe that was one of the complaints people had about Clash of Monarchs. For me, it was kind of the high spot, was that players couldn't control the shit that the nation that they represent as a whole couldn't control. I've got kind of a weird view on that, right? Like, I know some people are like, you shouldn't be able to control what the commander on the field can't control or whatever. Well, in a game of this size, of this scope, you're not the commander on the field, and you're not really the king. You're sort of the collective force of that nation. And that kind of argument is usually made for people who are okay with, like, you know, weather events and everything, and they kind of do some hand wavy stuff about friction of war and everything like that. And yes, there is a friction of war, but you don't necessarily control it, and you certainly shouldn't have a card that allows you to create bad weather or something along those lines. That's one thing that I like about this mechanism. I think Bob is coming from the same place in terms of, like, not wanting to give players unreasonable control of things. But I feel like he's making a little bit more concession to the, I want to have more control as a player. You know, I want to be able to make better choices and whatnot. And so some powerful political cards could also give you a stronger play on the board in some cases. So, you know, things like, I don't know. Yeah, see, this is a reinforcements card, which, right, well, no, this negotiations card, right? That's a pretty big point total. You're giving up a lot of campaign capability for that, or possibly building a fleet or something along those lines. So you got a lot of capability. Anyway, let's get moving. We're in the winter quarters phase. There was something I wanted to say just as I was going up, and I had already plugged the camera in. Yeah, so everybody has to go to winter quarters. Now that's not a big deal for most of the things. These French are going to have to go. That's going to suck for them. But they really wanted to take Hanover. In terms of the siege here, the Austrians are going to have to lift the siege, I think. I'll look that up. But because that's actually kind of problematic. Essentially, you have to go to winter quarters, and then maybe you can do some winter campaigning after you stop back at winter quarters. I'm sure that happens sometimes. I'm also sure that sometimes troops just continued on into the winter. And I feel like the whole mechanism for the winter play, yes, you get to play and your opponent does have some reactive capabilities, but man, it's not really, like, I get more the feeling that when one force continued into the winter, that was a choice that pushed both sides into it. And I almost feel like if you play a winter campaigning card, first of all, you should be able to probably maintain sieges later. Maybe you have to discard a card or something to do it, but you should be able to maintain sieges because those did sometimes go late. And also, you should, if you do play a winter campaigning card, your opponent, I think, should have an opportunity to play a card as well. Simply because they usually could react, and not just on a very local level. But it would also not be on a global level, right? So like if I played a card influencing, you know, the Austria-Prussia war, you shouldn't expect to see something over in the Italian front because of it. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm just blowing air out my mouth, I guess. Okay, so land forces not in winter quarters may. Okay, we've got to look at the actual rule because this is probably shorthand. I know we've done it before, but everything has to be like this. See, this is different. So this says land forces not may move. Here, all land forces not in the same space must move. Big difference. Same version. Same replacement version, right? This is the 2023 version 2. This is the 2023 rulebook. Oh, this is the December rulebook, not the other one was in the spring. Anyway, it's that same version 2 of the rules. I don't know if it says it. Yeah, there wasn't a version, I think, on the original one. But anyway, there's a, there's a mismatch between the two. Pick one, right? What do we go with? Well, I'm going with the rules, but I don't know. I don't know which is right. And no, I don't believe this is in the in the errata either. Like, there's just mismatches between components that are still unpleasant. In extent, not in the same as a depot, fortress, square space, or port, must move 2 APs towards such. Major forces that cannot hit such suffer winter attrition. Okay. So we're on the Prussians first. I think all the Prussians are in place. Okay, goody, goody, goody. What about the Austrians? We got some issues. No depot here, so he's going to have to move back. That's actually cool because I can go to Prague, which is actually where I want to go, so that I can gather my forces under Brown. Now, they're going to get scrambled in terms of commanders, I think. So that's good. Over here, this is a problem. So the Austrian army is going to have to pull back, and does it have to go to the closest? Towards such a space. So I can actually gather together elsewhere, but I'm going to pull back to Prague. But again, I lose my siege for that. Do we want to check this, make sure it's the case? Will we know? Are winter quarters dealt with anywhere else? 17. Yes, they are. There's no note in the rules there. Mandatory force combination moving. Now, this is more complicated. First, all friendly depots can be moved up to 2 spaces, which means you can actually set a depot so that you can fall back to it. That might be important. Like the French, I think, are sitting on a depot, so they can actually stay there. I guess it's like Valley Forge or something. All friendly major forces that are not in the same space as a friendly depot force must move. So again, we're saying must here. Each major force that cannot gets a penalty. You can leave forces behind in a victory point space. What was I looking for? Yeah, I was looking to see if there was any exception for sieges. There's not. Okay. Well, we'll take care of the movement. Actually, wrong. There was a depot there. I slid the depot back. It's not going to make a difference. It's going to melt away. But the reason I slid it back is that I don't want to, like, there's a must and a may. In no cases is there a, you can leave your winter quarters to go to some other. But if I move the depot to begin with, then I have to fall back on winter quarters, and that's fine. I don't have a leader here. Everything's going to be too complicated to try to do anything with that force. I put the Lorraine force in place there, and this will go here, and he'll grab this extra strength point, which I can just toss in there. It worked good on armies. I think everybody went back to winter quarters. We're good. On the Austrian side, I got to pay attention to countries because Piedmont looks like Austria, right? And that's going to put me to the Froggies. I got to think real hard with them. I'm in winter quarters here. That's fine. I'm fine there. I think I want to stay there. Okay. I didn't remember the Spaniards. Spaniards are sitting in a port. I guess it's friendly. Okay. And then the Brits, and that's going to be Brits, Dutch, Piedmontese. This guy can't be here. He cannot. I have to leave Milan. Well, that blows. But I can leave my strength points there. I don't know if I want to leave 5. That's a point that I think I've already collected. I don't know. See, here's what's fucked up. Piedmont has no victory points because I guess they're a major power. But I don't know if they should have this Milan victory point or not. Because somehow or another they're occupying Milan. Why are they occupying Milan? No, this is the Austrian army of Italy. Huh. Okay, that's fine. That's in the right place. Well, damn. I guess we'll withdraw to Piacenza here. We don't actually need to occupy Milan to own it. And I think we're okay with the Piedmontese. I didn't realize that I had Austrian forces there that were oversized. Oops. So where's the Piedmontese? They're down here. They're fine. Okay. What am I doing? I don't know. There are no English in London, which is good, because if there were, I'd be in trouble. I'd have to move them. All right, I think that's all the winter stuff. So now, Sacred Resources recruiting phase. Discard unused cards to buy SPs or depots, and also fleets, I think. Again, not on there. Might be, yeah, this is the one where I've got the 6.10. I am tempted to write in fleets into there, just because I'm getting so sick of not remembering that. All right, so we go back through the chunk, and SPs are 1 card each. Depots are 1 card each except for France. Okay. Prussia blew both their cards. They didn't have anything they really wanted. They took their 2 strength points for that. That's fine. Gotta pay attention to that. Spaniards get additional reinforcements for their allies. It's kind of weird. Their reinforcements are up here. Their allies are written into here. Yeah. Okay. It's just like this. On to Austria. Now, for Prussia, like I said, it was no big deal because they had cards that they don't particularly want to have. I'm a little iffy, like this Pillage the Enemy, I think is a really good card, but I'm just not finding myself able to play it. I'm too much on the ropes from the Austrians, so I'm like, fine, it's a 3-point card, throw it, whatever. It's got some cool effects, I like it, but I can't seem to get myself out of Silesia and punish the Austrians very hard. But for Austria, who's the next power, I do really have to worry about this, because in 1743, when we get up somewhere, we're going to be getting new cards. And I believe that's in 1743. So before we draw the new deck, we're going to be facing the wider war cards. Those are going to get just shuffled into whatever my current draw pile is, which is like 1 card. But that 1 card's enough, well, whatever is enough to reserve that only, you know, that I'm not going to see any cards I discard, depending on the size of the wider card deck. But I'm probably not going to see a card again. So if there's something I want, let's say, you know, I want to play Regaining the Crown, then it's of some value. Some of these I can get rid of. This I can get rid of with no problem. This I want to play, so I won't get rid of that. Hesitation. This is really kind of a useful card. But do I just want to discard it because I'll have a bigger hand? It's not a very valuable card. Affects the French Bavarians. I might have enough force, so I think I'll throw this. I think I'm going to keep these 2. And I'm going to throw these 2 and grab myself additional reinforcement points for that. I don't need depots. I seem to have a pretty good pool of those. But yeah, I have to make these choices that, oddly enough, like last year, I could take as much resources as I wanted because I would be getting all my cards back. This year, it's different. Any cards that I want for next turn, I need to hold on to. And I don't like when things feel that different in terms of like the decision making in your play. France is, of course, going to be in the same kind of situation. They have a whole lot of cards, though. Part of it is that this didn't sink into me until just now, that this was the case. So, like, I didn't play these major campaigns. Now, these are remove cards, which are somewhat problematic, but I did not play them because I kind of want it to... I kind of didn't want to get rid of these powerful cards, but now I'm like, well, when am I going to see them again? It's going to be, you know, I don't know. Let me see how many cards there are in the Wide Oak deck. I'm going to add 19 cards to a discard to a deck that I already have like a card in. Okay, which means I'm definitely not going to see anything I discard in this next year. On the other hand, you know, getting additional resources is definitely of value. Now, I've got a lot coming in from here. I'm allowed to discard one of these to get fleet, and I want to do that. These cards I'm definitely holding. I'm going to discard one to get a fleet and increase my fleet presence in the Atlantic so that I can keep getting the treasure fleet, because this is so valuable. I mean, I can keep getting it as long as the British can't intercept, but I want a chance of being able to beat the Brits, and they get to make their choice after me. Spanish Guards, man. So, I'm thinking of holding this able subordinate, because that throws the Sacs into a battle. I didn't use him in the last battle, well, I wasn't going to use him in the battle that I was going to fight here, because I wanted the Sacs instead of someone else. I'm definitely going to get a fleet. I think I'll probably throw this major campaign, much as I really wish I had played it instead and gotten another activation with that other force. And then I've got these Spanish Guards. It's +2 to the battle roll. That's pretty good. Do I have enough Spaniards over here to count for it? I do. So it's like... But... I don't know if +2 is worth it. Like, I might just get me some more French reinforcements. Sure the hell I ain't gonna buy Spanish. That's the thing. These are just Spanish Guards. Fuck them. I'm the French player. I don't give a shit about Spain. But my victory conditions have to do with... my automatic victory conditions have to do with getting enough points. I don't know how many. It's a lot. Don't feel like I'm anywhere there. So automatic decisive victory is a combined victory point total of 23 or more with Charles VII crowned, or 26 or more without. And Austrians are 9 or more, but they're at negative. So what is it? Combined all Bourbons, including the Prussians? The Bourbon power combined. So right now we're looking at 10. You know? And I don't know how much better things are going to get. So I definitely think I'm going to yeah, I'm going to get a ship, and I'm going to get, I guess, a couple of reinforcements. For the English, I have this nice Med Fleet Rising event, which I'm going to hold on to. It's a 3-point card. I could increase my fleet in the Atlantic with that instead, but this gives me an extra fleet build, essentially. It gets me, I don't know, I'm weak in the Med, so who knows. I'm trying to decide, because all my cards, every single one of them is useful to me and seems good. So I've got Fleury's Intransigence. Preventing the French from entering Italy, etc. I think I can discard this. I think that'll go into the discard pile. Carteret and the Dutch commitment. I want to play this at some point. Negotiations. Oh man, I want to play this. I want to get my Russians in hand. But it's getting ugly, right? And then a fleet sortie. Wow. Can I give up a fleet sortie? Can I count on being able to get one and try to prevent the French treasure fleet? Well, my interception chance isn't that good. So I'm going to play... I don't really need troops. Do I want to hold 4 fucking cards, though? I draw like a dozen cards, and I have to get rid of all but a dozen. I'll throw this on the count of being able to get one. What am I going to get to play? I'm going to get to play 2 of these. Which one do I get rid of? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. So I will be taking a British reinforcement and then a section of fleets, just so that I can stay a little bit above the French in the Atlantic. Just like in the other campaign segments, I have to worry about a supply, irregulars, rally. I got the winter quarters evicted, no final supply segment. But essentially, everybody should be in winter quarters, right? So I can kind of ignore anybody who's not going to be taking a turn. The Prussians have no cards, so I'm just going to ignore them because... Now, if they were in trouble supply-wise, they would be in real trouble at this point. But they're not. But the Austrians have a winter card. However, it is a late winter card, so they will not be playing that. So we'll be skipping them too. I think they're all in good places. I'm not allowed to move. Yeah, you can only play an event card that allows for winter movement. Now, I'm going to have an event segment afterwards, but I go through each player. I think France does not have any winter movement cards, and I'm certain Britain does not either. So we just pass through all of this going to the event card segment. And reset this. No one had an event they wanted to play until we got to the British, and they have a few they want to play, but they can only play one. I want to play the Carteret Dutch commitment. I wrote that down, and then I realized, wait a minute, that's a lot of Dutch troops. I don't have a Dutch force pool. So the maximum army size for the Dutch is 35 strength points. No cav restriction on any of that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 26. Okay, so we're still good. And this one-time event doesn't get removed from the game. Again, that's not the way this game handles that. It handles it with this checklist thing. Not sure how I feel about that. Not sure how I feel about that. I like the fact that I'm not really dealing a lot with, like, it's not hurting my resources in the future to do something. But those some things that I do, getting marked off and everything, it's kind of a pain in the ass mechanically compared to discard this card if you use it, you know? So that's the event card segment. And then we advance the season marker, remove all CH markers not stacked with AU. Haven't we done that already? Yes. Remove all guerrillas. So this is going to go here. We're going to go in the 43 turn. We should have some time that we are... Aha! You know how I've been tracking the stuff here? There is actually a track for it. There's an APCP track here that you're supposed to count up, keep track of your action points and your command points on. There's no counter for it. They thought it was worth giving you a blank. And there's no counter for it in the replacement game either. Is that a big deal? Not terribly. I can find me something. I have a boat somewhere upstairs that I used for stuff like that. I could use a die or anything. But yeah, there's apparently a track on the map for it. How about that? Now I've lost the counter though. Like I was using it over here and I was happy with it over there and it was fine. I don't know what the event track is for. Haven't gotten any that operate on there yet. Factor into net total VP above event VP plus. Yeah, this is that. Maybe the event VPs are supposed to go down here. I don't know. I do not know. I'm finding that more easily reachable than across the board, so I'll probably just keep using that. But I may use it for APs, although I'm fine using dice for that. All right, so that is the end of 1742. And we'll load this up. Wordy, confusing. Yeah, I know. And I'm not getting a great feel for the narrative of the game because I'm just fighting too hard with the rules and everything still. Now, I gotta say, Vietjaya Nagra, I had to fight with through at least half the game and then some. And honestly, other than the Sultanate, I don't really have, like, I feel like even at the end of the game, I didn't have a good idea of what to do with anyone. With the Sultanate, I felt like I got a pretty good idea of, like, about midway through. Maybe if I had just been playing one power, I would have been able to get a pretty good idea. But I still wasn't getting a lot about narrative in it, and I'm not getting a lot here because I'm doing so many, I'm looking at cards so much, trying to figure out what I want to play. I'm looking up rules so much. I just don't feel like I'm really engaged in the story that the game's trying to tell. And that's a shame because a good part of why I play Historical Sims is I want to see the story unfolding. And instead I feel like I'm spending way more effort fighting with the rules, fighting with the cards, and all that kind of stuff. And I think that would be the case even if it were a smooth and clean game. Which is one of the problems I have with more modern design, to be honest. Although, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to tell. Like here I stand, I got the narrative out of pretty cleanly. I look at, you know, an older game on the same subject matter, A Mighty Fortress, and I'm like, Jesus, there's no story here, man. It's just boring. So, yeah, maybe there's a midpoint. Maybe there's someplace clean that things can come from. Part of the issue with this is, you know, as a CDG, trying to be an accurate military simulation as opposed to the kind of lighter game that Here I Stand is, it just, it doesn't work all that well. But I don't know what would. Again, I didn't have a problem with Campaigns of Marlborough in terms of how the story that was telling. Maybe as a less interesting game, but, you know, in terms of tactical choices and or strategic choices, it's hard to tell when you got to fight the rules and the cards so much though to see, can I do anything? What's going on? You know, but that's I don't know. That's just a part of it, man. That's just a part of this kind of game. You put this much detail into the sequence of play, this much information on each card, and I think two things fall by the wayside. Strategic thinking, which is a big deal for everyone, I would think, and the narrative, which is a really big deal for me when I'm playing solo. I wouldn't care so much if I was playing opposed. I don't really see the narrative when I'm playing a game opposed. I'm very, very busy. Like, I see it when my opponent's gone and I'm just like jizzing over the game afterwards or whatever. But I don't see it while I'm playing it in general. So, you know, that's why, that's where I kind of enjoy things like a coin game or a CDG or something, is it's fun to play opposed. You know, it's fun to have that challenge, but and that constant like opportunistic choices. but the narrative just doesn't come through quite as well unless it's a very light game, I think. Anyway, let's send it up.